Okay, now for this last part in 5.1, we're going to talk about story problems. And I know we all hate story problems, but also at the same time, there's always that question from students, what is this even used for? So this right here is a good example of how applicable this can be. So E is actually really useful and is used a lot when we're talking about interest and compound, specifically when interest is compounded continuously. So right here, when interest is compounded continuously, we actually have an equation that helps us determine the amount of money that you can have after a certain amount of time. So the amount in an account after T years is given by this formula. Okay, so in the story problem, let's read the story problem. I don't want you to follow exactly what it's doing. I actually want you to do something different, but it says that you and your friend each have accounts and earn annual interest compounded continuously. If you see this compounded continuously, you're more than likely going to want to use this formula right here. Okay, and I like to look at this formula as A is equal to PERT. So it's P times E raised to the RT. So the balance, A, in dollars, of your account after T years, so A is the amount, T is years, can be modeled by this equation right here. So this equation is the same thing as what we have up here, where P is equal to 4,500. Okay, and your rate, R, so R is equal to, we call that 4% or 0.04, if you're going to write it as a decimal. Okay, now in the book it tells you that you're comparing to your friends, and it gives a graph of your friends. Here what I want you to do is I just want you to calculate what you'd have in your account after 10 years, okay? So, first of all, to explain just a little bit more, this p-value right here, this is like saying your initial value. Okay, so maybe how much you put into the bank at first. So what you started out with, okay? P is the principal, okay? So P is the principal, R is the annual interest rate, okay? So those are what those stand for. Now, if you want to know how much the amount, so you want to know the amount, it's equal to, say, so you started with your principal amount was $4,500, and the rate is 4%, so that's going to be 0.04. Now, how much are you going to have? What's the amount, let's say, after 10 years? So let's try and use this equation to see how much you would have. Okay, so we have 4,500. Now, 10 times 0.04, if you just want to quickly plug that in, 10 times 0.04. Now, you could just use 10 and move the decimal over a single spot, and so that's just going to be 0.4. So I have 4,500 times by E raised to the 0.4. And that gives me 6713.21. So 6713.21 dollars. That's the amount you would have. That's your balance after 10 years. Okay. So yeah, that's these are pretty easy, okay? It's just having to understand where your values go. You have to understand that P is an initial amount. E is the number, so E is not a variable. Make sure you know that. E is not a variable. It is a number, so you can't replace it. R is the rate, and then T is the amount, is the time in years, okay? All right, so there you go. There you have it. That should be pretty much all that we're going to be covering for 5.1. So